Hello, virtual parents and students. Here you can see a testing schedule that we've mapped out for the remainder of the school year. Parents, please note that the common assessment dates are subject to change, but this will give you a good idea of the time frame. You'll notice on April 16th, your student will be taking a math benchmark. This is a little bit different than our common assessments in that the benchmark will cover all math from fourth grade. This will give me a good view of where our strengths and weaknesses are so that we can prepare best for the Georgia Milestones math sections. In gold, you will see the Georgia Milestones ELA section 1, 2, and 3. That will take place on May 4th, 5th, and 6th. Your student will report face-to-face to their home-based school on these dates to take this online test. Then you will also see the blue boxes, May 11th and May 12th. Those are for Georgia Milestones Math, Section 1 and Section 2. So just to give you a little bit of background, because your students in fourth grade have not yet taken the Georgia Milestones, this will be their first test administration. I'm sure they're a little nervous. You may want to know exactly what to expect. You can share this with them. The entire test will be administered online. Virtual students will report to their home base school to take the test face to face. The students will have to pace themselves in each section in order to complete the test in the allotted time. They will be reading the entire test to themselves. Students will not take a science or social studies milestone in fourth grade. So please note this, science and social studies are not included in the Georgia Milestone end of grade testing for our fourth grade students. Only math and ELA. They will have to type short and long responses while using correct grammar and conventions. The types of questions that your student will have on the Georgia Milestones, there are several different types. So the first type is a selected response, which is what they're used to taking. It's just a multiple choice question. They will be using their test taking strategies like slash the trash, getting rid of those silly choices to help narrow it down. Every section of the Georgia Milestones will include the selected response questions, and the majority of the test is selected response questions. There are some questions where students will need to type out a response. We'll get to those in just a moment. Students can eliminate choices that they know are not correct. We call this strategy slash the trash. There is a tool on the computer that will let them cross out the choices that they eliminate. This just helps them to be able to see it crossed out. Always look back in the passage and or the question. There's also a cool highlighting tool that students will be able to use during the test. Another type of question is the constructed response. These are the questions that require students to type an extended response, a longer response. It asks a question and asks the student to provide a written or typed response in his or her own words, as opposed to selecting a response like A, B, C, or D. Partial credit can be given on these types of questions. Constructed response questions will be in the ELA and math sections of the Georgia Milestones, so on both of those tests. Here we've provided a link for a practice Georgia Milestones assessment. We highly encourage all of our students to click on this practice just to get familiar with the format, what it will look like, the tools that they get to use. So here we have listed out the steps. You can go back to this slide to review and to click the active link here. Please note that Google Chrome is the only supported browser for this version of the online test. So, just to get into some more of these specifics, the Math Georgia Milestones is administered in 2 sections that will take place on May 11th and May 12th. Scratch paper will be provided. Students are not allowed to use calculators. The minimum amount of time to spend on these is 60 minutes. The maximum is 130 minutes. And I will go ahead and tell you there will be a lot of fraction questions. So if you're reviewing with your child to help them prepare, I would make sure that I'm spending some time on those fraction questions. And this also, there's a little table at the very bottom of this slide that you can see. It kind of breaks it down for you to see. There are 42 selected response and technology enhanced items. And I'll get into the technology enhanced items in just a second. But the selected response is just your simple choice A, choice B, choice C, choice D. It could have more than that as well. Sometimes they may go all the way up to letter F and say, all that apply. So this means your child may have to click on A and F or A and D and B. So make sure that they're reading those questions carefully to see if it says select all that apply. Now, there is some technology enhanced items, and your student will be prepared for these. We've been practicing these all year. These are the click and drag types of questions where they're manipulating different pieces on the screen. That's what they would consider a technology enhanced item. So there are going to be about 42 of those. There are going to be 8 questions that are 2 points that are also technology enhanced questions. And then we have 5 field test items. These are questions that they're testing for future administrations. Here you will find that we have some example problems. This is a line plot. It shows the weight of the apples that Dean picked, and your student can see this is a selected response, just simple A, B, C, or D they would choose. Now, we are also going to be sending out a link to the study guide. The study guide is an awesome resource for families to use to practice at home. It gives sample questions. These are a great way to help your child feel more comfortable. In the study guide, it will give the correct answer following the question along with an explanation. So if your child is not sure about why C would be the answer, then they can read the response that might help them understand that a little bit better. So here we have another question. This is, again, a selected response. Just a word problem. Your child will select their response, and then here they can see that the answer is D, and it follows with an explanation. So again, these are sample questions that can be found in the study guide that we will also share with you guys.
Hi everyone, this is Miss Wilson, and I'm going to go over the ELA Georgia Milestones. ELA stands for English Language Arts. There will be 3 different sections on the ELA Georgia Milestones. The first section focuses really on writing. The second section and the third section is where we're going to get into reading with comprehension questions where they select a response. If they do a written response, it's a much shorter written response, and it has to do with the reading. They will encounter 3 different types of questions in the ELA sections. One, of course, is multiple choice. There are some multiple choice that will have a part A and a part B. Constructed responses are going to be those short written responses. It's going to be important that they use text evidence. That means they look back into the passage or paragraph that they read to find evidence that supports their thinking. And then finally, they have what's called an extended writing prompt. That's what you might consider an essay or a longer story. It will either be informational or opinion, and then a narrative. So they'll have 2 of these. Okay, so they'll either get informational and a narrative or opinion and a narrative. So this would be the longer responses, a lot like what they've been practicing with Write Bright. Also on the ELA Georgia Milestones, we have certain time limits. So the first section, remember, that's the one where they are going to be doing the longer writing, their extended responses. They have a maximum of 90 minutes. Section 2 and Section 3 are both 80 minutes each. Okay, and if you look down here, you can kind of see the number of items and the number of points that they gather for each type of section. The technology enhanced items, that would be like if they're dragging and dropping something or anything that has to do with an actual technology response. Okay, and they're using technology to do that. So let's talk a little bit about that extended response. This is an example of what they might see when they get to the extended response. Notice that on this one, they're going to be reading 2 paragraphs, or 2 passages, I should say, because they're short stories. One is on Charles Lindbergh and one is on Amelia Earhart. So it's telling them that they need to read the passage, and then when they're done, they're writing an informational essay on these 2 people. Okay? Then we're going to come down here. You can see that here is the story of Charles Lindbergh, which is passage 1. Here's the story of Amelia Earhart, which is passage 2. And then they're going to come to this, okay? And it says, think about both passages and then write an essay in your own words explaining how Charles Lindbergh and Amelia Earhart were similar and how they're different. So we've done a lot this year with comparing and contrasting. So it's asking them to use the information that they read to compare and contrast Charles Lindbergh and Amelia Earhart. Okay, this down here is really almost like a checklist that they can use to help them. So it's saying, remember to use facts and definitions, use quotation marks, go back into the stories if you need to. Okay, so it's telling them to remind themselves to put a conclusion at the end, use correct grammar, those types of things. So this is really like a checklist that is provided to the students as they start to write. Now, this one is a passage that they'll read, but then they're going to respond to the passage. Okay, so they're not going to be writing a giant, long story like they did when they were comparing and contrasting in an extended response. So here's the story. The piano comes over here. And then when we come here, you're going to see some of the types of questions that they may see after they read. So which sentence correctly states the point of view in the story? So this all has to do with the story, the piano. Okay, and then here's an example of a part A and part B. Notice that they're both still multiple choice, but part A says which word best describes Greta's mother, and then part B is asking them to support that answer. Why did you pick that in part A? Okay, which sentence from the story best supports the answer in part A? So that's why you've got the part A and part B. It's really asking the students to support their thinking. Here are some examples on grammar and reading questions. So again, they may get a short paragraph or passage, and they're just going to do their selected responses here. Again, another one here, but this is starting to focus on grammar. Okay, so it's saying which linking word. Again, we've talked a lot about those linking words this year, and so they would pick the correct one. That would be a grammar type question. Up here is another grammar type question. Which sentence are the adjectives ordered correctly? We've done that this year too. So really your student is prepared for this test, guys. There's not going to be anything on this test that we have not gone over this year. Again, here's another grammar question talking about prepositional phrases, which we just did a few weeks ago. Again, actually. So please remember that everything that they're going over are Georgia type questions. We follow the Georgia standards. Therefore, we have gone over everything that they need to know for this test. So in school, when they start to take this, remember they will be going face-to-face at their home-based school. They need to remember to pace themselves because it's timed. Important words, like if it says do not, or is it never, or which one is not the correct answer, they need to remember those important words. There will be a highlight tool so they can highlight words just like we do on technology. They definitely have that advantage because we do a lot of highlighting already because we're virtual. Remember the strategies that they've learned from Miss Bingham and Miss Wilson. Use their scratch paper. Use their scratch paper. Plan their writing out. Cross out answers that they know cannot be right. Narrow it down. They do have a flag tool, so if they really are stuck on one, they can go ahead and answer it and flag it and then go on to the rest of the questions. And flag it is a great tool because if they come to the end of the test and they still have 10 minutes left or however long left, they can go back to those flagged questions and look at them again and make any changes that they need to. But we don't want to stay too long on one question or they'll run out of time on the test. So the flag it really does help with that. And of course, to give your best effort when taking the test. Some things that you can do with your student at home is, of course, have a positive attitude. We know that the students get so scared and nervous when big testing like this comes. And unfortunately, our kiddos didn't get to take it last year due to COVID. So this is really their first time taking the milestones test this year. So remind them that we have been working on this all year, that a positive attitude is what they need to have, a growth mindset that they will be fine. It is okay. Just do the best that they can. Make a plan. In the weeks before the test, work on your study guides that we've sent. We've got the link here at the beginning where they can go on and practice. Use all of these tools so that your child can start feeling comfortable. The night before the test, do not cram for the test. Don't worry about that at that point. What you need to remember at this point is that your brain and your body needs sleep in order to do well on the test. So this would not be a night that we want to stay up late before a test. We want to go to bed at a decent time. And of course, the morning of, we want to make sure we get up on time. You don't want to be rushing on that day. You eat a healthy breakfast. Give yourself plenty of time to get to school to do that face-to-face. Know that you've got this and really just encourage your child to do the best that they can. Okay? It is okay if they're nervous. That's normal. And we have been so proud of all the work that they have done this year, especially through doing it virtually, which is actually, again, an advantage for our kiddos because the test is online and our kids are going to be prepared for it. We've been really proud of them. We enjoy working with them and we know that they're going to rock this test. If you have any questions at all about the milestones, whether it be the math or the ELA or just a question in general about it, please feel free to contact Miss Bingham or Miss Wilson on Class Dojo. We would be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you again for all that you do.